All right, let's just get right into it. In the big pet debate, it feels like there are two main camps. You've got the people who want that furry, four-legged welcome party greeting them at the door, and then you've got people who prefer, well, a roommate who silently observes them from the top of the fridge. Today, we are decoding the psychology of people who love cats. And the real question isn't if you love them, it's why your brain is so powerfully drawn to them in the first place.
Forever, pop culture has given us these lazy stereotypes, right? The crazy cat lady, the quiet loner. These aren't just jokes. They're actually a reflection of our cultural anxiety around things like solitude and social isolation. But what's so fascinating is how science tells a completely different story. These stereotypes were never really about the cats. They were about our discomfort with people who don't need to be loud and obvious to feel connected. The reality is, it's so much deeper than that.
And this really gets to the heart of it. These caricatures exist because our society often makes a huge mistake. It confuses quiet for emptiness. We see someone enjoying their solitude, and our first thought is loneliness, because we've been conditioned to believe that for a connection to be real, it has to be loud.
Just think about it for a second. Our world rewards the big, the energetic, the person who is always on. That's kind of the default setting for being seen as social and well-adjusted. So cat people, well, they just naturally challenge that idea. They don't feel the need to broadcast their entire inner world. And in a society that so often confuses noise for intimacy, that makes them really easy to misunderstand.
And this, right here, is the central misunderstanding. What looks like detachment isn't someone rejecting connection. More often than not, it's someone rejecting overstimulation. It's about carefully curating a life, choosing people and places that don't drain their battery. What our culture might label as being avoidant or withdrawn is actually a form of deep self-respect, a very careful choice about where to invest your energy.
Okay, so let's shift gears and look at the actual science behind this. To really understand the mind of a cat person, psychologists have this incredibly useful tool called the Big Five personality traits. And you know what? When researchers compare cat lovers to dog lovers using this framework, some really clear and fascinating patterns pop up. And here are the big three. Study after study shows that, on average, cat lovers tend to score higher in openness, lower in extroversion, and just a little bit higher in neuroticism. Now, I know these are just clinical-sounding words, so let's break down what they actually mean in the real world.
So, being higher in openness isn't just about being artsy or creative, though that can be part of it. It's really a way of thinking. It means your mind is comfortable with nuance, with complexity, with ideas that don't fit into a tidy little box. People high in this trait are often unconventional. They're happy to question tradition, not just blindly follow it. They're just more comfortable living in the gray areas of life.
Now, lower extroversion, this is where so many of those stereotypes come from. But let's be super clear about this. This has nothing to do with being socially anxious or awkward. It's all about energy management. For some people, socializing simply costs more energy than it gives back. A person with lower extroversion can have incredibly deep, meaningful relationships, but they prefer them in smaller doses with plenty of quiet time to recharge in between.
And then we have the most misunderstood term of them all, neuroticism. In pop culture, we hear neurotic, and we think anxious, unstable, worried. But in actual psychology, it just means you have a heightened sensitivity. You feel things a bit more deeply. You pick up on subtle changes in the room, and your internal system just registers stress a little more quickly than the average person. So the most important thing to get is that this is not a flaw. Think of it more like having a high-resolution emotional radar. It's a built-in early warning system that pings you when you're getting close to feeling overwhelmed. And if you have a system that's that finely tuned, you're naturally going to seek out calm, predictable environments. A cat, with its quiet, unobtrusive presence, is pretty much the perfect companion for that kind of nervous system.
And at a certain point, we have to dig even deeper than just psychology. Because this choice, this love for a cat, it might not even start in your mind. It might actually start in your body, in the fundamental wiring of your nervous system.
So this is the real question, isn't it? Are you simply choosing a cat because you think they're cute, or is your body actively seeking out a companion that meets a very real physiological need for calm?
Okay, so think of it like this. There are basically two main ways our bodies find their way back to a state of calm. Some people regulate through activity. They need to move, to interact, to get that external feedback. That's a dog's world. But other people regulate through stillness. They find their balance in quiet, in predictability, and in an environment without a lot of social pressure. And that is a cat's world.
This quote just nails it. When a cat person says, "Oh, dogs are just a bit much for me," they're not being cold or antisocial. They are giving you a literal physiological report from their nervous system. They are describing a state of being overstimulated. They're not choosing to be distant. They are choosing these specific conditions that finally allow their body to feel safe and at ease.
So, we've talked psychology, we've talked physiology, but what about the bond itself? That deep, almost primal feeling of wanting to care for this little creature. Well, for that, we have to look at some really ancient programming that's still running in the background of our brains. So there's this concept in biology called the baby-schema. Basically, evolution wired our brains to have this automatic, irresistible urge to care for things with certain features. Big eyes, a round head, a tiny nose. And if you think about it, a cat's face is a perfect match for those triggers. So while your conscious mind is seeing a cat, your ancient reptilian brain is seeing an infant that needs to be protected. This isn't just about love, it's a deeply programmed instinct to nurture.
And the connection goes way beyond just sight. A cat's purr is an incredibly powerful tool for something scientists call co-regulation. That low-frequency, rhythmic vibration is a sound our nervous system instinctively hears as a signal that everything is okay. Before you even consciously think, "Oh, I feel calm," your body is already responding. Your breathing gets deeper, your muscles relax, and your stress hormones actually start to drop. It's like a physiological duet of safety.
And this gets to the absolute core of the bond. A cat's affection is offered, not demanded. They give you connection without the constant intrusion of social expectations. And for anyone who finds the performance of human interaction to be exhausting, this is just a profound gift. It's a relationship where you can just be, without constantly having to prove that you're paying attention.
Okay, so we've built this really neat case based on psychology, physiology, and evolution. But now we have to ask a much stranger and, frankly, a kind of unsettling question. What if that powerful bond you feel with your cat isn't entirely your own idea? So I want to introduce you to something called Toxoplasma gondii. It's this microscopic parasite, and it has one singular goal in its life. It has to get inside a cat in order to reproduce. And to do this, it has evolved this crazy ability to hijack the brains of other animals, like mice. It makes them fearless and even makes them attracted to the smell of cats, basically making them march right to their own doom. Now here's the wild part. A huge chunk of the human population is infected with this parasite, and for the longest time, everyone thought it was totally harmless. But some new, and I have to stress, still very debated research is starting to ask, could it be subtly influencing our behavior too? Could it be nudging us to be more affectionate toward the one animal it needs to complete its life cycle? Look, the science is definitely not settled, but it is a fascinating and kind of creepy question about where our free will stops and our biology takes over. So whether it's our personality, our nervous system, or maybe even a manipulative little parasite, the end result is the same. The person who is drawn to cats is making a choice for a quieter, less demanding world. And this isn't about retreating from life. It's about creating the exact environment where a certain kind of mind can really do its best work.
And this is such an important distinction. The solitude that a cat person often chooses isn't the pain of isolation, it's the freedom you need for deep thinking. Creativity, complex problem solving, real introspection, all of those things require long, uninterrupted stretches of mental quiet. A cat's presence offers companionship without shattering your focus. In a way, they're the silent guardians of the very conditions a thoughtful mind needs to thrive.
So in the end, maybe this was never really about being a cat person or a dog person. Maybe it's about what kind of world your nervous system is actually built for. To be drawn to a cat is to be wired for subtlety, for presence without pressure, for a deep connection that doesn't need constant performance.